and welcome after a long time to a new episode of Snickometer's Cricket Podcast. We're starting something new from today. We're going to bring you all the happenings from the cricketing world in an episode once every week. We call it Cricket This Week, and today is episode number one. As always, with me, my co host from Mumbai, Sarvesh. The euphoria of India's T20 World Cup win is slowly but surely coming down from the highs that we experienced in Barbados. Sarvesh, being a Mumbaiker, having the parade in Mumbai um, must have been an absolute surreal feeling. I know you were not at the stadium, but you did try and witness the parade itself. Could you give us some inputs into how that whole thing panned out?
There was no place to even stand or move, but there were people coming in and going out. Despite that, and nobody was complaining. That was the best part about it. So, because everyone wanted just one thing, they just wanted one glimpse of their heroes. So that's what they wanted, and they came in numbers. My understanding is that I was there. I could see at least I could see at least 1 lakh, maybe more than that. They were, just in front of my eyes. There were plenty in that area. Overall, it could be 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs, or even more than that. So that was the number that we were seeing, and all the streets were full. The stadium was full. When they opened the stadium at 4 o'clock, people just wanted to get inside the stadium, and they were just all gates they were jam packed. People were getting in, and at one point they realized that probably now we need to stop taking people in, so they had to close the doors. And when that happened, plenty of people were disappointed that they couldn't get in. That was the scene. People were disappointed. They were finding other ways too. They were climbing on trees. They were climbing on the walls of those nearby societies. They were doing everything, whatever was there in the control. They were just doing everything to just take a look at that trophy and the heroes. So I cannot I have never seen something like that before. Probably I will never see that again, but it was a it was a very different and special feeling.
Absolutely. I saw some videos on Twitter, I saw some videos on Facebook, on Instagram, and everything just showed how much this trophy meant to that Indian audience. Yeah, just phenomenal scenes, some real memories for people to hold on to for a lifetime, as you said, and some real memories for the cricketers involved too. I'm sure none of them will forget
Yeah.
that day in a hurry. Um, but life goes on and things move on, and so does the cricketing world. And the very next day after that parade, India started playing another game, another international game. And this time it was a Zimbabwe series, which started off in Harare. And the first game after India's T20 victory at the World Cup, not going to plan at all, and India going down to a very spirited performance by Zimbabwe.
Yes, it was a low-scoring game. For the entire World Cup, we were saying that the pitches. We were talking about the pitches and scores. Not the matches were not that high scoring. So I think it was a good change, uh, for especially for the Indian fans. We were coming off. We just witnessed IPL 250 and 260, 270 were getting chased, and the entire scenario was like that. People wanted to see some competitive cricket. People wanted to see some bowlers into action, and now then they got what they wanted. And now just after the World Cup, they got another low-scoring thriller. Zimbabwe had a partnership of I think around 35 or 35 runs for the last wicket, and that was the difference on that day, because they scored 115. I felt that we have this game in our pocket, but I was wrong. We lost too many wickets up front, and the game, despite the efforts of Washington Sundar and our lower order, we couldn't get a result on that day.
There were a couple of moments in that game because I watched that game and I felt our bowlers were very wayward to start off with, which allowed the Zimbabwe batters to get off to a flying start. Um, Thanks to Ravi Bishnoi and Washington Sundar in that game, we kind of made a comeback with the ball. We had Zimbabwe at 90 for 9 at one
Yeah,
stage,
yeah,
and then that last wicket partnership, getting them to 115, I thought was the difference between the two sides, because 25 runs
yeah.
added for the
25.
last wicket, a victory margin of 13 runs. Um, Still, even then, I felt like this Indian batting lineup should have chased down 115 on that wicket,
Yeah.
come what may. But just some poor shots, some rusty cricket, when you've not been playing for a while. And make no mistake, none of these players have been playing cricket since the IPL finished. So yeah, that rustiness coming to the fore, and yeah, in the end, India being surprised. You would call this an upset, even though it was India's second 11 that was playing.
Yeah.
It would still go down as a surprise, and yeah, just some crazy scenes in Harare there, because um, it was a packed house, to see how much cricket means for the people in Zimbabwe as well. I mean, if you saw Mumbai streets being lined with thousands of people and lakhs of people, as you said, that ground in Harare was also going nuts when they won. So, yeah, great result for Zimbabwe. We all know the troubles that that country has been
Yeah.
through. So for them to, they didn't qualify for this T20 World Cup as well. So a boost at the right time for them, and hopefully onwards and upwards for their cricket from here.
Yeah.
In the second game, though, obviously India waking up from that rustiness, waking up from their sleep, and normal service resumes, business as usual. Abhishek Sharma, phenomenal innings at the top of that order. Um, just, I mean, anyone who's seen the IPL would not be surprised by this performance. But to do it on an international stage where it really counts and the pressure is that much more, just some sublime hitting by him, and he was the difference between the two sides.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in IPL we have seen him go bang bang from over number one. But here I felt he was batting sensibly, because the first game was a low scoring one, so he didn't want to rush it up. So he was slightly cautious at the start, but once I think he completed his 50 in about 30, 31, 35 deliveries, I think somewhere around that. But I think once he realized that the pitch is a good one, his last 50 runs I think came up in I think 14 or 15 deliveries. So that tells that the ability that he has and the kind of gear shifting that he can do. So I think that it was very well compiled 100, and 147 deliveries in any T20 game. This basically puts you ahead, and that's exactly what happened. I felt after that I think Ruturaj he was struggling a bit at one point, but then he recovered quickly, and at the end he scored some quick runs, and then again he was supported by Rinku Singh. So I think that end was that basically sealed the match for us. 234 is most probably is not getting chased in normal situations.
Absolutely. I know Abhishek Sharma has been working a lot with Yuvraj Singh, but one of the things that Yuvraj Singh used to do really well was his bat swing was probably one of the best in the game. When it was in his arc and he could have his long levers and swing his bat through the line, there was no stopping that ball. And I'm seeing some similar things with Abhishek Sharma, who seems to have kind of unlocked something in his game, which is allowing him that free flow of the bat and that bat swing, and just I don't know if he's kind of changed his grip slightly, because the Abhishek Sharma of old, I remember his hands being together a lot, but I think there's a bit of distance between the top hand and the bottom hand now, just letting him access those big hits a bit more. Um, like, if he can do this on a regular basis at international cricket, there's no stopping this boy from playing for India in the white ball format, is there?
Yeah, I mean, he is. I mean, we have seen his batting, but I think again I wanted to highlight his bowling as well, because he in that under 19 World Cup he bowled I think around 25 overs. Now I know it's a different format. It's a ODI 50 overs format, but what I've seen from Abhishek Sharma in the past is that he's a very capable bowler. I think it can happen that sometimes these players, when they get developed in in one of their primary skills, like Abhishek, he developed rapidly in his batting. So that's when it can happen that his bowling could take a backseat. So it looks like a case of that scenario. But I think he's still a very capable bowler, and I think we are using him in these matches. We are giving him these opportunities to bowl, because in IPL I would have loved to see him bowl, but because of the impact sub rule now, we don't really see a lot of all rounders getting those overs. But I think he's a very capable bowler, and I think if he can chip in with some overs, even in T20s or even in one day, I think he will be a very good asset, because right now we do not really have too many batters who can bat in top five and also chip in with some overs. Only Hardik Pandya is the option for us, but I think apart from him, I think we are struggling in that area a bit. So I think it's a very good. It's a very good it will be a very good addition if if you can keep playing this such kind of an innings, and you can if you can seal a spot.
Absolutely, just like his mentor, he also bats left-handed, bowls left-handed, and is quite effective in the field as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, long may this last for India. Game number three, if we have a quick look at that one, once again India batting first, 182 for four. Shubman Gill and Ruturaj Gaikwad in the runs this time, with some good contributions from Yashasvi Jaiswal as well in the mix. Um, with a score like 182, it's not a score where the opposition is completely batted out of the game. So we saw Zimbabwe putting on a good fight there, getting to 159, losing by 23. But this was a game I was absolutely gobsmacked by what I've seen Washington Sundar deliver in this series, because I think from the IPL that he had, to coming out here, and just really being spot on, from not being picked for his IPL side to being India's frontline spinner. And good to see that an off spinner can be effective in T20 cricket as well.
Yes, he didn't have a good IPL, and then even before that, I mean, I think he has made his debut, I think 6 7 years back. But he has missed a lot of cricket because of injuries. He has made his Test debut. He had a very good outing there as well. So I think he has been in and out, but for some reason, he has struggled to seal that spot. And now suddenly we have that opportunity in the limited overs cricket, where especially in T20 cricket, where Jadeja is no longer there. So you basically have that one spot where you need somebody who can bowl those overs and who can also bat. And I think Sundar is it looks like he's a like for like replacement. I know he's an off spinner, and Jadeja is a left arm spinner, but I think if we can manage those overs from Akshar Patel, and if we then we can actually have another option in an off spinner, which we didn't have in this World Cup. So I think it's a good. It would be a good addition. So I think seeing Washington Sundar, like you said, in this form is a very good thing for Indian cricket. And I think he had some. He had. I won't say it was a good innings, but I think he tried his best in the first game that he played. That we played. We lost that game by 12, 13 runs, and he was there till the end. I think he backed himself to do the job, but on that day it couldn't happen. I mean, such things can happen, but I think again he's that kind of a player who can win matches with his bat down the order. We can also chip in with some overs. So I think good addition. I hope that finally he will seal his spot, because he's been around for a long time now. So maybe it's time to keep playing him consistently.
One of the things that probably he had to improve in his game was the fact that he didn't turn the ball as much. He was always darting it and using the straighter ones and the floaters and stuff like that. But the genuine off spinners turn that you get, he didn't have that. But in that 30-20, he was flighting them up. He was getting good amount of turn, which kind of is a great sign, because we don't know how long we have the services of Ravichandran Ashwin in Test cricket for us. And once he hangs up his boots, India will be on the lookout for another off spinner to replace him. And I mean, if Sundar can add that element of turning the red ball to his game, then it augurs really well, because his batting has always been brilliant. But if he can get on top of his bowling and become an all format kind of bowler, it'll be great news for Indian cricket.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So that takes us to since we're talking about bowlers, it's time we spoke about one of the GOATs, as we call them, the greatest of all times. Jimmy Anderson finishing up his career at Lord's this year, with a win, with a test match victory over the West Indies. Um, I mean, where do we start and where do we end with this man? Because he's played 21 years of international cricket. And I know Sachin Tendulkar played 24, but Jimmy Anderson's a fast bowler. And I can't remember another fast bowler who played 21 years of Test cricket, um, uh, largely injury free. over 700 test wickets. I think something crazy like about 180 odd test matches. Is that correct?
188.
180,
188.
188 test matches. So about 12 short of Tendulkar's record of 200 tests. Um, we're not going to see a cricketer like him again, are we? In our lifetime, at least.
No, I don't think it's possible. I mean, even if somebody is good, uh, then it's still difficult to play that kind of a cricket for that long. I mean, he's almost 42 now. He'll be 42 in a couple of weeks. So I think being a fast bowler, bowling in late 30s itself is a difficult job. But doing it till you're 42 it's an entirely new level of challenge. And I think the kind of cricket that we see these days, it's very difficult for anyone to replicate this kind of a scenario, because he has bowled 40,000 deliveries in Test cricket, and no seamer has bowled touched that. In fact, only three players apart from him have bowled 40,000 plus deliveries in Test cricket, and all three of them are spinners. So it's very difficult for a fast bowler doing it, like I said, till you're 42 for 21 years. Keep running in, keep bowling those out swingers, in swingers. It's not an easy job. And I think you mentioned. I mean, we have to talk about his injury record as well, because his action is very smooth, very very fluid. Just comes in, bowls in with his rhythm. He, despite we never saw that Anderson. We never saw him slowing down. Even when he was in his mid 30s or early 30s, he was bowling in kind of that 135, 140, 145 range. Even now till his retirement, his pace didn't drop much. He was still bowling in 135, 136, close to 140. So I think that kind of a consistency is very rare, and to keep doing that for so long is very difficult.
If you see that graph that we have on our screens, you can see he's taken most of his wickets against India. Sadly for us Indians, he's always been a pain in the backside as far as we are concerned. But the other interesting fact that I can see from that graph is also the average. If you look at his average, except for Australia and to some extent in South Africa, he's averaging under 30 against
Yeah.
everyone.
In
And
fact,
that
close to
probably
25.
was the
Close to
yeah
25, in fact.
mostly close to 25. um, but that probably was the sole reason why Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes kind of had that conversation with him, because with the Ashes coming up in Australia and his average of 36 over there, I think they felt it was time that they had to look at some other options to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
And not to forget, it's not just that average, it's that economy rate as well. I cannot remember a single game where Jimmy Anderson has been taken to the cleaners.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot remember a spell, I cannot remember a match. May it be white ball cricket, red ball cricket, whatever he did, he was always economical.
I mean, consistency, like I said, he was always consistent. He never had a bad series. He could have one bad game here and there, but to have a bad series, you need to play 3 to 4 games in that kind of a bad patch. He never had that. So that tells you that he had answers for most of the things. He had figured out most of the batters. And now, since I'm talking about batters, I wanted to mention this thing. Take a look at this number. So out of those 704 wickets, 115 were 15 wickets. Those wickets came in when the batters were batting on zero. So basically, he has dismissed 115 batters on duck. And out of those 115, 23 were golden ducks, 16 were silver ducks. That means the batter played only 2 deliveries, and 18 were bronze ducks. I mean, to dominate in such manner, and it's a very difficult thing. And again, I would like to tell everyone that those 115 ducks are the highest. Second highest is, I think, Glenn McGrath. So I think again, 115 ducks. That's almost like more than 1/7 of his entire tally. And now, since we are on this, quickly take a look at this. 349 of those wickets that he took, those wickets came in when the batters were batting in single digits, so 9 or less runs. So, I mean, 349 wickets when batters were batting on single digits, and after that, even if you just go ahead in that graph, you will see that he has dismissed quite a lot of batters who were batting on 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, closer to 100. In fact, even after 100, you will see that slight spike where batters normally tend to lose a bit of concentration after completing the 100. But even in that range, they found it difficult to handle James Anderson. So he was that kind of a bowler. Batters never felt safe against him. So that tells us about his caliber.
I guess to summarize, what it also tells us is that he was at the batters from ball number one.
Yeah.
Very rarely sometimes you see fast bowlers coming in, they're a bit wayward to start off until they find their line length, spray down a few down the leg side, some maybe outside off. But Jimmy Anderson from ball number one was hitting top of off, bowling those beautiful outswingers, getting the ball to come back in. With the older ball, he used to reverse it. I've seen an interview where Tendulkar said Jimmy Anderson was probably one of the toughest bowlers to face because he could move it both ways and there was no change in his action. I mean, the wrist used to be cocked and you did not, as a batter, know whether it was going to come in or it was going to go out. So, yeah, just brilliant. He's been a magician. It's been an absolute privilege to watch him over the years. And when he had the ball in his hand, you were never comfortable as a viewer because you knew that he could get even set batters out, and he just had that ability to come up with a magical delivery at any stage of the game.
Absolutely.
Anything else to add, Sarvesh, on
This
Jimmy
is
Anderson?
this is the comparison with Glenn McGrath, and again, Glenn McGrath was again he dismissed more than 50% of his wickets came when batters were batting in single digits. Again, he was another champion bowler. That's why I thought maybe to include him. But again, very similar graphs. Just that Glenn McGrath didn't really bowl much once the batters crossed 50 because they also had services of the legendary Shane Warne. So that was probably the reason. But again, James Anderson, he came back to bowl his second or third spell where he dismissed many batters in their 50s. And Glenn McGrath again, he again a great bowler. Both show very similar trends. So that tells us about the caliber of these guys. And now you mentioned about Sachin. Take a look at his list. He has dismissed Sachin 9 times, and so this is not easy. I mean, we know Sachin's. I mean, we don't have to talk about that, but dismissing Sachin 9 times is no joke. And again, even if you take a look at the list that we have, dismissed Pujara 12 times, Michael Clarke 9 times, Kane Williamson 9 times, Stephen Smith 8 times. So these are the batters of this generation. And again, just go down in that list. You will see Kallis, Sangakkara, Virat Kohli, again Shubman Gill. So basically, he has troubled batters from I think 3 generations probably. The Kallis and Sangakkara, Sachin, and then the Virat Kohli, and now the generation of Shubman Gill. So I think this is not easy. This is just not easy.
Yeah. I was quite surprised to see David Warner's name there because I thought he was Stuart Broad's bunny, but looks like he was also James Anderson's bunny. David did not score runs against England in England, at least. That's what this graph tells you for sure. If Broad didn't get him, Anderson got him. So I guess the only one last thing is that they've taken as a mentor in the side for the remainder of the series against the West Indies. I don't think England will get a better bowling coach than Jimmy Anderson.
Yeah.
His knowledge to keep his body injury free is going to be worth its weight in gold. And just the ability to do things with the ball and to find a way to pick up wickets at any stage of the game. Something that new and young bowlers can definitely learn from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, what have we got next? Well, we've got a map in front of you. And you must be wondering why we've got this map in front of you. Well, when Team India came back from winning the World Cup, and we had the victory parade in Mumbai and then the celebrations at the Wankhede, there's been a bit of talk of a brand new stadium being built for Mumbai. But turns out it's some distance away from Mumbai. Sarvesh, can you tell us a bit more about this new stadium that is being proposed?
So this was, I think, proposed some time back. But when we saw that, when we saw lakhs of people on streets for that parade, that this kind of popped up again, and we realized that in Mumbai there are basically 3 to 4 stadiums. One is Wankhede, one is CCI, the Brabourne, and then we also have DY Patil. Now, Wankhede and Brabourne are very close to each other. DY Patil is in Navi Mumbai, so it's somewhere around 40 kilometers away from these two stadiums. But apart from again, and then the nearest stadium is in Pune. But now what they are doing is they are basically planning another stadium. Capacity of that stadium would be around close to around 100,000, and that is planned. On the right hand side of your screen, you will see that place called Amane. So in that region, they are basically planning a new stadium with a capacity of around 100,000. So again, it's going to be slightly away from the city, like you can see on this map. It's away from the city. It's basically it comes in Thane district. It is close to Bhiwandi. That is basically the industrial hub and the outskirts of the city. So I think we could see some logistical issue in future. So I think they will have to plan that thing out. They will have to see the connectivity, and everything has to be spot on. And then they will, once that is done, I think we can have that stadium. But again, it is 60 to 70 kilometers away from the main city, from Wankhede Bribon, slightly away from Thane itself, and again from Navi Mumbai and that Panvel region. I think the people will again have to travel a bit to reach to that stadium. So again, it's a new territory. Kalyan, it's closer to Kalyan. Kalyan is a place. Our viewers must be aware of Tushar Deshpande's background. He basically comes from that region, so it's closer to his town. So yeah, it's a new territory, new stadium, and they are basically planning. They are planning to build it there.
So, there's just one question for you. When I came to India last year to cover the ODI World Cup following the Black Caps, it was the first time I went to the Wankhede. Fantastic stadium, great facilities, in the heart of the city, and when you're in the stadium, you feel like you're in a cauldron. You're right on top of the action, and the viewer experience is fantastic. Also had a chance to go to CCI because one of my friends who's a member there invited me there and showed me around, and it was a beautiful stadium. Is there no chance of potentially increasing the capacity of those stadiums, because rather than going about 60-70 kilometers away from the city, because as we know, cricket is not just about a stadium. You need, as you said, you need transport there, you need hotels around in the area, you need to have certain infrastructure for it to become a buzzing cricket stadium. Because we've seen the stadium, the DY Patil Stadium in Navi Mumbai, fantastic stadium, but still not being utilized as much as it should be, because it's just that much far away. Your thoughts on whether the capacity of Wankhede could be increased in any way?
I think it's pretty difficult to increase capacity of both Wankhede and Bribon, because primary thing is that these two stadiums are located in South Mumbai, where real estate is pretty costly, and people will basically find it very difficult to build anything new in this territory, in this region right now, because that's the kind of value that this particular area is having right now. So it's difficult to expand horizontally. So that's why even if you see Wankhede, some structures you might feel that they have just gone vertical because they don't have any other option, and then they are right next to the railway lines where basically you just don't have the option to expand till that point. So I think that's what they did with Wankhede when they renovated it some years back. So they just went vertical. I think that was the right approach, because there is no space. There is no space in that region. People find it difficult to even park their cars when they come for matches. So it's that kind of a situation in that area. So I think, considering that in mind, I think it made no sense to just going back to Wankhede and Bribon to again renovate and build a new one. So I think they have chosen the right option of building a new stadium. But again, it is again debatable if they could have done it in some other territory like Panvel or in Navi Mumbai, where they are also planning a new airport. So I think again the connectivity would be better in that region, because there is a new airport coming there. We already have DY Patil Stadium there. Like you mentioned, it is not entirely utilized well. But I think again, this stadium coming up with a capacity of 1 lakh, it is going to serve well for the city. But again, there could be issues with logistical issues. There could be issues with traveling. But I'm sure they will do something to sort it out. But again, given the current situation, I think they have gone ahead with the right option. And yeah, I think they will have to do a good job, to better the transports, to better the to commute, because they will have to figure out the commute, and the going in and out of the city will be a challenge. So they will have to figures that out.
Well, hopefully, time will tell us what happens with this new facility, and it might be a few years before it all comes to plan and
Yeah.
fruition. But yeah, hopefully, cricket continues at the Wankhede because it's a phenomenal stadium, and at least
Yeah.
Test cricket, I'm sure,
Yeah.
will continue to flourish over there. Since we are talking about Mumbai, and we cannot forget about a Mumbaiker, a very well-known Mumbaiker who turned 75 a few days back as well. Yes, Sunil Gavaskar, the son of the soil of Mumbai, um, 75 years old, and a big happy birthday to him from the Sneakometer podcast. Um, but um, Sarvesh, I've never had the opportunity to see him play live. I've watched videos of Sunil, sir, and my dad used to tell me when I was a kid that he was the best batter that he's ever seen bat. Um, I grew up in the generation of Sachin Tendulkar, so for me, he is the best batter that I've ever seen bat, technically and in all other aspects. But uh, I think Mr. Gavaskar's legacy stems from the fact that in an era when Indian batters were still not as um, on a world stage, not as successful as some of the others, he was the first one who this country could be proud of on an international stage.
Yeah. I mean, 13 centuries against West Indies of that era. That tells you. And again, we can bring in a lot of other things. We can bring in his innings where he was injured when he was in. We can bring in his innings where he actually batted left-handed. He batted without helmets for the majority of his. In fact, towards the end of his career, he started batting with that hat with slight protection. But apart from that, he was batting without helmet against those dangerous bowlers. So, plenty of things we can talk about. I mean, he was averaging 65 against that kind of a bowling lineup itself. That itself is a huge achievement. I don't think. I mean, like you said, our previous generation, they grew up watching him, and our generation is basically they grew up watching Sachin. So I think that tells you the kind of era that he had at one point. I mean, even till now, we see a lot of elders talking about him and what he has done in the past in the West Indies. And even if you talk to older people from West Indies, they still discuss him. So, that tells you that the kind of impact that he left on world cricket.
Absolutely. I've stayed in New Zealand for the last 13 years now, and every time the Indian cricket team comes here, um, Mr. Gavaskar comes as a commentator, and especially at the Basin Reserve, it's quite funny because the commentators' room is and the media room is at the very end of a stand. So every time you need to go to the lunchroom or you need to go to the toilet, you need to come out of that media room, walk through the crowd, and go to the toilet or the lunchroom. The number of people that stop him for a autograph or a picture or just to shake his hand. And we are test connoisseurs here in New Zealand, people who absolutely worship test cricket. And some of the comments that I've heard from people are just magical. They say, look, he was a master, he was this, he was so good, technically he was the best. There's nobody been like him. And yeah, just the sheer amount of time that he used to spend at the crease was something that people are very, very fond of. Just looking at those averages, what it tells us is that he got runs against fast bowling, and he's got runs against Sri Lanka, so he's got runs against spinners. He's got runs against in Australia where there's pace and bounce. So yeah, basically a game that suited all conditions, a technique that kind of had no chinks. You could argue that 38.2 average in England, less than everywhere, but then in those days, without a helmet and the ball swinging around, and yeah, trying to uh, survive there in England would have been tough. So yeah, just a complete all-round batter. First to get to 10,000 runs, um, had the highest number of hundreds for a long, long time until it got broken. But an average of 50 plus, batting in that era, as you said, um, just some great, great numbers there.
Yeah, I mean, it was not just him. It was also about his batting partners because he used to open the batting. He came in early 70s, and he was there till mid 80s. But his batting partners, they kept changing. So again, like you said, it was not an easy era to bat for batting. So we had to keep changing the opening partners for many reasons. So I just have one more graphic for that. So if you see this, on the top we will have Mr. Gavaskar and his scores in those respective years, and then at the bottom, all the individual rows are basically given to his batting partners, to his batting partners while he was opening. So you will see there are 19 batting partners.
Wow.
I mean, I don't have enough words to describe this. And I think Chetan Chauhan was there for a long time with him. I think Anshuman Gaikwad, he also batted with him for a long time. Then Chris Srikanth again towards the end, in the 80s, he started batting with him together. So I think there are a lot of opening partners that he had while opening. So I think this again, this stat tells us the kind of impact that he had, and it was just not easy opening in those years.
It's a phenomenal stat because if you look at it, he started opening the batting with Abid Ali, and then he's basically finished opening the batting with Srikanth, and in between he's also opened with Manoj Prabhakar,
Yeah,
who kind of so the spectrum of openers that he has opened with over the years. Um, I don't know if there's any other opener in world cricket who's
no,
opened with as many partners as
nobody.
Mr. Gavaskar has. Yeah. So just a phenomenal stat there, and 1971 to 1987, the cornerstone of Indian batting. Um, we grew up seeing an era where when once Sachin got out, people used to switch off their televisions and their radio sets and go back to work. But this is the era before where, as long as Mr. Gavaskar was there at the crease, everybody thought India's still not out of the game. Like
Yeah,
they could save it or potentially win it. But once he got out, then India's chances must have dipped quite a bit
yeah,
with that.
absolutely.
Um, right. Anything else to add? Well, he's had a phenomenal career as a commentator as well. He's 75, still sounds like he is about
Yeah,
40 years old behind the microphone. So it's hard to imagine that he's been doing
yeah,
commentary for such a long time. And yeah, just the energy, the passion for the game, and the drive to keep going. Um, uh, you know, Jimmy Anderson's played for what, 21 years.
21.
Mr. Gavaskar's played, finished playing probably more longer than that, as you said, in 87, and he's been doing commentary since. So, yeah, long may this cricketing career of his continue.
Yeah, absolutely. The kind of energy that he still brings, I mean, it is unmatched. And anytime when he speaks, his commentary, his experiences, his with his teammates, even his mimicry is something that we always look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely right. Last but not the least, we've had one more piece of news. I wouldn't say news because we had an inkling that this was going to happen. But Gautam Gambhir, the great Gautam Gambhir, has been confirmed as Team India's coach for all three formats for the next 3 years now, 3 to 4 years, I think, a 3 year assignment. Um, and there were a couple of other names floating around, but once his name was at the forefront, your reaction, Sarvesh, on Gautam Gambhir taking the reins from Rahul Dravid?
Yeah, I think it was expected, like you said, and we were discussing about him during the IPL as well, and we all felt that it would be a right choice, because I think when we talk about coaches, and it is always a fact that you have to get those coaches in when they are at the peak of their career, because it can happen that it has happened in football a lot of times where coaches, when they go past their peak, and when somebody tries to get them, then what happens is you don't get the same results that you expect. I think, in my opinion, he's somebody who is on the rise, who is close to his peak as a coach. So I think this is the right time, and I think I mean, having somebody like Gambhir as your coach is going to help this team for multiple reasons. I think one, his mentality is great. I mean, he's a competitor. We have, I mean, we'll probably never see a coach that animated. just sitting out in the dugout, because coaches, they do not have any active role in when they're coaching. They are sitting out, and players have to do the job. But again, he's so involved and he's so engrossed. He's so animated when in anything that anything his responses on whatever is happening on the field. I mean, it's just next level. I think he's going to bring a lot of tactical acumen. He's going to bring that elite mentality that we always talk about. So I think he's a good combination. And again, you need in today's era, I think you need somebody like him, who has again played all three formats. He has played 50 overs. He has won 50 overs World Cup, T20 World Cup. He has played a test match. He was one of the finest openers that we had at that time. So I think his ability wise, he's brilliant, and I think his mentality, his attitude, I think everything just fits in well.
You're absolutely right. I was just going to say that for the first time, India is getting a coach who has actually played all the three formats of the game. Um, because if you remember, Rahul
Yeah,
Dravid also never played T20 internationals for India. But for the first time, we're getting a coach who's done that, who's won multiple World Cups himself, so he knows what it is to win. I think one thing I'm glad about is that India's actually got this monkey off their back of winning an ICC trophy
yeah,
by winning this T20 World Cup.
yeah.
And I think that will substantially reduce the
The
pressure.
pressure. Yeah,
I mean, coaching India is a high pressure job, anyways, and the expectations are always going to be through the roof. But the fact that we've just won a T20 World Cup will mean that pressure has just been lifted a bit, and he'll get a bit more breathing space to kind of express himself. In fact, I think it will help him um, to take some bold decisions and make some calls on a lot of players that he would want to do.
yeah,
One thing about Gautam Gambhir, though, a lot gets written about him, a lot gets said about him. There are the people who don't like his attitude and his off-field and on-field aggression and fights and etc. and all that he has. But I always judge people on the fact that is their heart in the right place. And I think in Gautam Gambhir's case, you can safely say hand on
yeah.
heart that his heart is absolutely in the right
Absolutely.
place,
Yeah,
and it is only in one place that wants to see Indian cricket progress forward.
yeah,
So it'll be very interesting to see how he goes about his business. I've got lots of expectations from him, and I think Team India will
yeah,
do really well under him. Um, he's still got to form his team. There are a few names popping up because, as we know, the coach is just one part of the puzzle. Yes, Rahul Dravid was the head coach, but he had the services of Vikram Rathod. He had Paras Mamre there. He had T. Dilip as his fielding coach, who the BCCI want to kind of bring back into the mold and keep him on. But we're hearing names of Mone Morkel there. We're hearing names of Ryan Tenduskate. Um, it is an important to have the team that you are comfortable with
yeah.
when you're head coach, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, you want to have a team of trusted people with you, and Gambhir has worked with Mone Mokal before when he was at LSG. He has worked with Rant and Descarte as well. So I think that complete group, he needs to have the people around him, and people he basically trusts. So I think to have that kind of team, I think is going to be the first. Is going to be the starting point once he forms his team, because like we all know, whoever comes in, even when Rahul Dravid came in, I think he basically brought his trusted people, because Paras Mamre was with him when he was coaching for under 19, and
Under
basically,
19s,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, he had his people around him. So I think that is exactly what Gambhir is trying to do. And I think we'll hope that we'll get some confirmations on those assignments, on those appointments in next few weeks.
Absolutely. And just one last thing on that note is also the fact that um, we there's a lot of talk about Bharat Arun being the
Yeah,
bowling
bowling
coach of
coach.
India, who kind of was the father of India's battery of fast bowlers coming on. So a lot of talk as to why he can't be brought back into that mold. But I think he's been there, he's done that. So this team needs a bit of new, and I I think he's given everything he can to Bumrah, Shami, and the lot. I don't think he's got anything more to offer. So it'll be great to see what some of the other people now can do and take Indian cricket forward from there. Um, any final thoughts? before we wind up this first episode of Cricket This Week?
No, I mean, you mentioned about Bharat Arun and what he has done in the past. I mean, again, he can still do the job. I mean, if he gets appointed, I think again it will be a good thing because again these bowlers they have already worked with him. But also let's not forget about the coaches that were there before. The winning our World Cup winning team, the coaches that we had. I think they have done a phenomenal job. I think we reached the final World Cup final, the ODI World Cup final with them. Unfortunately, we could not get over the line, but we reached the finals. We were undefeated till that point. We won the T20 World Cup. We were in the final of WTC as well. So I think the last this coaching setup they had a phenomenal time. I think. I mean, you will have to judge them, based on what they have done to this team, and I think ability wise and attitude wise, mentality wise, I think this team has reached another level. So I think splendid job has been done by them. So I think I mean, let's hope that we will start where they sort of left off.
I was secretly hoping that he'd rope in Justin Langer somehow to come onto this Indian team because I'm a massive Justin Langer fan, and I was hoping that he'd get him in because he's got that LSG connection with him as well. And when he was still playing international cricket, I still remember he had gone over to Australia and he had connections with Justin Langer. Then when he was going through a bit of a hard patch, and Langer helped him out there, so I was hoping he'd get him in. But that's probably for another time.
I even read
Well,
that we can get Abhishek Nair because again Abhishek Nair is somebody who has done a splendid job with KKR. A lot of he's somebody who has worked really hard on youngsters. The results that we are seeing with KKR youngsters, be it Ankesh Raghuvanshi, and all these young guys. I think again he has done a very good job. So I have read that even he could be in the reckoning. So I think let's see if he gets
KKR
in. Yeah.
K- KKR fans will be saying, well, we won the IPL after so long, and now you're hell bent on breaking our coaching setup completely to try to take them away from us. But I'm sure they'll find others who will be equally as good.
Yeah.
Well, with that note, we come to the end of the first episode of Cricket This Week. We'll be doing this on a weekly basis, bringing you all the action. Unless there's a important series that comes up and we start doing regular updates like we used to do, post-match reviews and stuff like that, we will continue this and give us your feedback. It's something new that we've tried. Tell us if you like it. Tell us what we could do differently. You've got our social media handles there. Sarvesh on Crick Aspect and myself on Rahul Patil NZ, or give us a follow on our Twitter handle at snickometer_pod as well. Until next week, this is your host Rahul and Sarvesh saying goodbye. Thank you so much, and we look forward to catching up with you once again next week, same time.